There's a teacher playing a game with her class, and she says, I need a volunteer. The little girl raises her hand. Come on up. She puts a blindfold on her, and she says, I'm going to put a piece of meat in your mouth. You tell me what it is. So she takes a little piece of bacon and puts it in her mouth, and the little girl's chewing. It's bacon. Very good. Now the little girl, come on up. So she puts a blindfold on her, and she puts a piece of chicken in her mouth. And the little girl's chewing. She's, that's chicken. Very good, very good. Little boy, I want to, come on up. Puts a blindfold on him, and she takes a little piece of hamburger, and she puts it in his mouth, and he's chewing. That's hamburger. Very good, very good. Now, little, I want to, come on up. So she takes a piece of venison, and she puts it in his mouth, and he's chewing, and he's chewing. He said, I don't know what it is. She said, I'll give you a hint. It's something that your mother calls your father. The little boy, spit it out, it's an asshole! There's a man, his car breaks down, and he has to get a ride to work with his buddy. So his buddy pulls up that morning, and he's blowing the horn. Come on. He's blowing horns more. Come on, bud. Finally, his friend comes running out. And he gets in the car, and he's sitting there, and his buddy says, your wife is standing on the porch. You forgot something. Oh, my God, I forgot to give her a kiss goodbye. I'll be right back. So he goes up. He gets up to the porch, and he pulls up her nightie, and he kisses her right in her pussy. His friend's like, holy hell. So he gets back in the car, and they ride, going a little bit. And his friend says, man, I got to ask you. When you went back to kiss your wife, why did he kiss her on her pussy? He said, have you ever smelled her breath in the morning? There's a man has a penis growing out of his forehead, and it keeps getting bigger, so he goes to the doctor. And the doctor takes a look at him. He says, you ever been to Africa? No. Well, you really should go. It's amazing. They have a beautiful wildlife, and it's a lot to see. He looks at his head. How about South America? Have you ever been to South America? No. Boy, stunning beaches, beautiful women, a lot to see. You really should go there. How about Europe? Have you been to Europe? Doc, I have a penis growing out of my forehead. Why do you keep asking me where the hell I'm going to, where I've traveled? Well, because when those balls start getting bigger and come down, you're not going to be able to see anything. There's a man opening a new restaurant, and he wants to hire a piano player. So he puts a sign in the window, and like that, a guy comes in and says, I can play the piano. I write my own songs. Okay, so he sits down. He plays this beautiful song. And the bartender says, what was the name of that song? Oh, that song was called My Ass Itches, But I Can't Scratch It. And he says, play another song. So he plays another song, another beautiful song. He says, what's the name of that song? Well, it's called I Thought I Was Going to Fart, But I Shit My Pants. And he says, play something different. So he plays this real fast, upbeat song. And he says, what's the name of that song? That song's called My Wife's a Whore, But I Love Her Anyway. And he says, tell you what, come in tonight and play, but don't mention your song titles at all. Just play the piano. Okay. So he comes in and he plays for like an hour. Beautiful. Everyone loves it. So he goes to the bathroom. When he comes out of the bathroom, a woman looks at him and says, hey, do you know your fly's open and I can see your balls? Know it? Hell, lady, I wrote that song. There's a mother, she's brushing her teeth, and she hears this. Brrrr. She walks down the hall to her daughter's room, and there's her daughter, going to town with a vibrator. Looks up, Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm 30 years old. I live with you and Dad. This is the closest thing to a husband I probably will ever get. Mom shuts the door. The next night, the father's up there. Same thing. He hears this. Brrrr. Goes down the hall. There's his daughter in there. She covers up. Dad, I'm sorry, but I'm 30 years old. I live with you and Mom. This is the closest thing to a husband I probably will ever have. So the next day, Mom's making dinner, and she hears this. Brrrr. She goes in, and her husband's sitting there with a vibrator. It's vibrating on the couch. She says, what are you doing? He says, I'm watching football with my son-in-law. A totally naked woman goes into a bar, and she sits down, She says, give me a beer. And the bartender goes over and he's trying not to look at her, and he gives her a beer, and she's drinking. Give me another one. So he goes over, and again, he's trying not to look at her, and he gives her another beer. She sits there and drinks it. One more. So he goes over, and he's trying not to look, and finally she says, buddy, what is your problem? Haven't you ever seen a totally naked lady before? No, ma'am. I was kind of wondering, how are you going to pay me? She said, well, how's this? And she spreads her legs and she shows. He says, ma'am, do you have anything smaller? There's a guy who goes to a psychiatrist and he says, Doc, I got a problem. All I think about is sex. I think about sex all the time. The doctor says, sit down. So he gets out a piece of paper and he draws a square on it. He says, what do you see? Well, I see a man and a woman having sex. Gets another piece of paper and draws a circle on it. And he holds it up. What do you see? A naked woman in front of a mirror. Another piece of paper and draws a triangle. He says, what do you see here? Two lesbians playing with a dildo. He says, sir, you definitely have, some kind of sex addiction. He said, I have a problem. You're the one drawing all the dirty pictures.
There's a guy, he finds out his wife is cheating. So he hires a hitman. And the hitman tells him, look, I charge $2,000 a bullet. And the guy said, that's okay. He said, what I want you to do, I want you to shoot my wife in the head, and I want you to shoot that man's dick off. The guy says, okay. So he gives him $4,000, and they go to the hotel where his wife is with the guy. And the hitman goes up to the window, and he looks. And the husband says, what'd you see? What'd you see? The hitman says, I think if I do it now, I can save you $2,000.
There's a 9-year-old boy who's in love with this girl. And he tells her, he said, I'm going to go ask your dad if we can get married. So he goes over to the house and he says, sir, my name is Timmy, and I'm in love with your daughter, Susie. And I want to ask for permission to get her hand in marriage. And the father thinks it's cute. He says, well, Timmy, where are you two going to live? Well, we're going to live in Susie's room. We talked about it. There's a lot of room. Okay. Well, Timmy, what are you going to do for money? Well, we talked about that too. With her allowance and my allowance, I'll get a paper route. We're gonna be okay. Okay, Timmy. When you and Susie start having sex and have kids of your own, well, sir, so far we've been lucky. There's an accountant gets arrested for tax evasion. The judge gives him 5 years in jail. So they get to the prison, and they've put him in this cell with this huge mountain of a man. The cell door shuts, and the guard walks away, and like that, the guy looks at him. He says, you want to be the husband or the wife? Sir, I made it for tax evasion. I really don't want any trouble, sir. I'm going to ask you again, do you want to be the husband or the wife? Sir, I said to you, I'm here for tax evasion. I really shouldn't even be in here. I don't want any trouble. Please, sir. Now I'm going to ask you for the last time. Do you want to be the husband or the wife? Well, I'll be the husband. Well, get over here and give your wife a blowjob.